Welcome back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Blake Snell. Now, the man has been on absolute fire as of late. However, in his last four, he is 1-3. So we're going to talk a little bit about him, and then a little bit about, the lack of support around him in his starts. But before we get into Blake Snell, I just want to say, early on this, I think all three of us were very skeptical of the hype after the first 2 months of watching Blake Snell. I never felt like Blake Snell was like a guy that was going to fall out of the rotation or anything like that. He had, he was struggling, and it was pretty clear he wasn't his normal self. But as the years gone on, and looking at what we've seen in this recent stretch, you can see why there was so much hype over this offseason acquisition. I feel like this is like the first time in the year where the Rays side of the trade doesn't feel like it's like the better side, which is cool. I mean, that's amazing. I'm super happy that's the case. But, I mean, this dude was definitely struggling a lot early on. He was still putting up a lot of solid starts. I felt like most of the time he was doing a better job than a lot of the other pitchers on the staff, or at least to the extent that they have, of keeping the Padres in the game. Now, the big issue was that he was keeping them in the game, but he's going 4 or 5 innings consistently. So that's where the issues are there. But Isaac, what's your thoughts on Blake Snell and has been performing as of late?
This Blake Snell is definitely worth what we gave up to get him. It feels like all year, Yu Darvish was our 100%, the guy that he would go out there at the beginning of the year and we would probably all think guaranteed W. He hasn't been that lately. Blake Snell has become that, in my opinion. This is the first time I can really say, like, damn, it feels like we have a top 5 pitcher in baseball, which I'm sure when we acquired Darvish, Snell, and Musgrove, all those guys, we expected to have at least one guy in the top 5, top 10 range. And over his past 4 starts, Blake Snell has actually been the best pitcher in baseball. In that Angels start, unfortunately, it was just bad luck, give up 1 hit, but of course it's in a timely hitting situation. Props to Joe Adele for coming in through in that kind of situation. That's kind of where the Padres haven't been coming through. So Blake Snell's looked fantastic. His changeup is still in timeout right now. So, I don't know if that's going to come back considering how well he's pitching. But right now, the fastball looks good. He was pumping it at 97 yesterday. The slider looks fantastic. He keeps getting people down and in with his slider against righties. And his curveball, I think he's starting to mix it in a little more. I saw yesterday he was throwing it at 9%. It definitely seemed like he was throwing it a little more yesterday. So everything right now is flowing for him. Month of August, he was probably the best pitcher in the bigs. And if he had this kind of year all year, maybe not all year, but had some inconsistencies here and there, but he was around like a 2.5 ERA kind of thing, which I think in his past 4 is around a 0.71. That'd be the guy that we're all ecstatic to have right now.
I think the biggest thing to take away of this is, when did he start doing good? Right after Larry Rothschild left. It's like a direct correlation. Snell has been absolutely fantastic ever since Larry Rothschild left. Like, top of the world, best pitcher in the MLB's last 4 starts. And you know what? He has nothing to show for it. He's 1-3. The Padres can't hit behind him. Yesterday they had 4 hits. And you know what? You could probably look at the game and be like, you know what? Some of those balls were hit really hard and just didn't go anywhere. Like yesterday, I thought Myers hit a home run, but it died at the warning track. It died. Like, they just had a lot of bad luck. And then in the 7th inning, Blake Snell walked a couple guys. And then, you know what? Angels finally got a hit and some timely hitting. But you shouldn't lose a game where the other team only has 1 hit and scores 2 runs. With how stacked this offense is, you need to help your guy out on the mound. Blake Snell shouldn't be, in his last 7 games, have under a 2 ERA and be 1-3 or 1-4. If your guy is giving you 6 to 7 innings of 1-run ball, you should win every single one of those. If not, you're not going to make playoffs. And with the Padres playing the way that they do behind Blake Snell or Joe Musgrove when they go out and had these outings, they won't make playoffs. And you know what sucks? Because Blake Snell has been pitching out of his mind. We all were ready to you'd be like, wow, we really lost this trade against the Rays. But he's coming around. And like the most important time when the Padres need him the most, he's doing that. But the rest of the team is nowhere else to be found.
No, it's definitely one of those things where it's like finally, yes, he's been going, and then there's like a caveat to him balling out, which is it's really unfortunate. And if we just want to look through his last 3 games, because I think you said he's the best, he's been the best pitcher in baseball. I think he's been the best player in baseball the last couple weeks. You look at his last 3 starts, he's allowed a combined 4 hits, struck out 31 batters in 21.2 innings. That's about as good as it could possibly be. His last bad start was against Oakland, which was one of the last games I went to this year. And it was the day game. I want to say it was Wednesday, and he got absolutely rocked. Padres lost that game. I think it was like a couple days before the trade deadline. It was the day where the Yankees made a trade. The Yankees made some trade that day. I forget who it was. It was Gallo. It was the Gallo deal. Happened right after the game ended because everyone kind of thought the Padres were going to trade Hosmer for Gallo. Remember that whole thing? And then it was like everyone was like at the game they gave Hosmer a standing ovation. It was that one. But this is a guy who since then has been a monster. And Isaac, you said, early on in the year, it felt like every time Darvish would pitch, he would get the dub. Unfortunately, it hasn't been like that when Snell has been even more dominant than Darvish was early on. And this is one of those things where we were talking in the live stream and some people were a little bit skeptical, like, hey, they got to start winning a lot. And we're like, I mean, that's true. They really do need to start winning a lot. And then as time went on, it just, you look back on that live stream we did and the people that were really concerned, I mean, I feel even more concerned now because if you have a guy going into a no-hit bid into 6 2/3 and you don't have a run against basically a bullpen game, like they're basically throwing 2 bullpen games. The Angels are this series. So it's frustrating. We've seen how up and down they are. Hopefully they get going again, but it's been really frustrating when your guy's going out there shoving that well, just absolutely dominating. And then it's like, well, that still didn't get it done. Because like if you're going 7 and allowing 2 runs, you should win that game every single time.
Yeah, one thing I got to note is I think that the win stat in terms of pitchers, I think it's an overrated stat. Now looking at it, you look at Julio Urias, I think he has 16 wins, but that doesn't mean he's the best pitcher on the Dodgers. At one point earlier this year, I remember Joe Musgrove was like 5-6, and he had like a high 2, low 3 ERA, so he was pitching fantastic. And you look at Blake Snell right now, who in his past 4 has a .71 ERA and is 1-3. So I think that's a stat that shouldn't really go too much into a Cy Young conversation. Of course, it's going to be there, but it's important for Blake Snell to keep this going this deep into the season, especially when we're in such a tight playoff race, but it's not going to matter much if this offense isn't putting up any runs. Blake Snell's next start is Sunday against LA. I don't know who it will be against. It's either going to be against Kershaw or Urias, I believe. Last I checked, it looks like it'll be for sure Urias, but it's still a possibility that it's Kershaw. So it'll be big for him to be able to keep them at bay while the Padres try and figure out something to put a run on the board because they've been struggling heavily. They struggled heavily against the Dodgers last time against those same exact pitchers. Their approach at the plate has been horrendous, but Blake Snell's pitching has been fantastic. So if there's, if someone's been a star these past couple weeks, this past month, Blake Snell's been our best player. He's been fantastic. So, we said at the All-Star break that we think he's going to have a second half turnaround, and he's done even more than that. He's been our best player.
Yeah, all you can really look at is the offense and be like, wow, what is wrong with you guys? What is it going to take for you guys to finally get out of this slump that you guys have? You get individuals coming out of their slumps. That's just not enough to win one game. Like Tatis will hit really well one game, but it still won't be enough because it would be only like 2 runs. And you know what? Our starters will go 6 innings, 0 earned runs, and then here comes Pagan out of the bullpen for like the 5th day in a row, and boom, Oh, wow. 3-run shot. Done. And you know what? He gave up a couple runs yesterday. We were already losing, but he still gave up a run yesterday. Like, I do not get Tingler's whole obsession with certain players in the bullpen and overusing them. If I remember correctly, he said that he doesn't see the fatigue in the bullpen. In fact, some of the guys have been throwing better than they ever have, I think was one of his quotes within the last week. And proceeding to do that, one of the players he mentioned was Pagan. He has been struggling his last few times out. So I think that's only, irony. That it's perfect irony. So you know what? We're getting what we want out of our starters. It's just now the bullpen struggling and the offense is struggling. So you know what? We just can't win.
So he said that about Pagan. Pagan is not.
Yeah,
Pagan has not looked good lately.
I think he said that about the whole bullpen.
He said no. He specifically mentioned Pagan at one point. He said that his fastball had more life to it, and he was doing good with his secondary pitches. I think it was after one of the games he struggled. He was like, "No, you know what? He had a bad outing, but you know what? He looks really good right now."
Dude, Tingler's been saying some weird stuff lately. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. He's like, "Hey, why do you put Tommy Pham hitting fourth if he's the best player at bringing guys in?" He was like, I like the way he swung the bat the other day. He's been saying some interesting stuff. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty funny. But oh my god, dude, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, why Pagan? Like, no, dude, he's been, and I think you're right. I think that's a lot of the reason why he's allowed so many home runs this year. I think he's allowed 9 or 10. He's allowed a lot. But it's always like, oh, I've seen Pagan. I feel like I've seen Pagan 4 times this week, 5 times this week. And then, like, once you think that, then it's like, oh, look, another home run. Like, that's how it's felt like this year. Whenever it's like, damn, they just pitched Pagan way too much. This team has seen him like 3 days in a row. It's like, well, yeah. Like, those aren't the situations that he's great in. But it has been interesting. The lineups have also been frustrating. Bottom line, though, Padres bats got to get going. They got to get going. There's not really anything else to it. Like, that's what has to happen. But anything else you guys want to add? I will say I have one more thing to add, actually. I remember earlier in the year, we were really frustrated with Blake Snell early on, and we all kind of tempered our expectations and, said, all right, let's wait a second. He might not be the guy that we exactly thought he was. That's okay. Like, the Padres can still with it. My expectations have now gone back up because we've seen this Blake Snell, which is an amazing thing. I love when that happens. But that's all I got. Anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably the harshest on Blake. I remember at the All-Star break, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be optimistic. I think he's going to have a second half turnaround. I don't have any grounds, any stats, nothing to show. I just have a feeling. He's been fantastic, proving me wrong in every aspect, and I love to see it. That man has been on a tear. Right now, I mean, other than Fernando, even he hasn't been that good lately. He's been my favorite player to watch easily. I love watching Snellzilla on the bump, and I mentioned it in our chat. Whenever Blake is pumping, he hypes me up. He's fantastic to watch. He's so electric, and you saw last night at Petco when he was 2 outs. It was like at 6 2/3 innings. How everyone was getting up, cheering, standing up because he was on the verge of another 7-inning no hitter, which was last time, which was what he had last time. Sorry, but right now my favorite player to watch, and I'm so happy to see it.
I found the exact quote. So he said, where is it? Field and Musgrove. I don't really see the fatigue. Being able to add the 2 guys, it helps. The starting pitchers are getting on a roll and adding length to their games. I don't think much on the fatigue factor. Emilio Pagan has been as sharp and as good as anyone we've had. They had a couple of greats at bat against him Friday. This was 4 days ago.
I mean, I don't feel like Pagan's been terrible. I think Pagan gets ripped probably more than he deserves. But that's just not a true statement. Like, that's just not accurate. Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm saying, man, Tingler's been saying some weird stuff. If you guys start paying attention, there'll be like one comment like, wait a second, he said that? Like, that's weird. But it's only been lately. He didn't do that early on in the last year.
One too?
This team, he's being driven insane. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today. Anything, you guys don't have anything else? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. This is also coming out after the game, really different. We mixed up the start times, so that's why it's come out late. But we will talk to you guys tomorrow. And go Padres. Hopefully they win tonight.